Use the square root property to solve x squared equals 25. The square root property effectively gives us a way to take the square root of both sides of an equation, but there is a little bit of a caveat here. So the square root property says if we have an equation in the form x squared equals c, then we are allowed to take the square root of both sides. When we have x squared and we take the square root, that gives us x. And on the right-hand side, the square root of c is just root c. However, we have to take into account that usually when we're taking the square root of a number, like the square root of 9, there are two answers. 3 is a square root of 9, but also negative 3 is a square root of 9. Now, we know that the radical symbol tells us that we want the principal square root, or the positive square root, but there's also a negative square root that we have to account for, and the way that we do that is by putting a plus or minus symbol in front of that square root. So in this case, we have x squared equals 25, and we can apply the square root property here. So let's take the square root of both sides. On the left-hand side, the square root of x squared is just x. And then on the right-hand side, we have to take plus or minus the square root of 25. And then when we evaluate the square root of 25, that is 5. So x equals plus or minus 5. This is taking into account that 25 has two square roots, positive 5 and negative 5. So this is a fine way to write the answer, but we could also write it as x equals 5 or x equals negative 5. This is also acceptable, and it really depends on the situation that you're in. X equals plus or minus 5 is the shorter way of writing things, but sometimes you might be doing online homework that doesn't use a plus or minus symbol, or sometimes you're asked to write the solution separately. So in this case, you'd write x equals 5 or x equals negative 5. And one thing I do like about the second one is that it does make it clear that it's two different solutions. You can see that right away. Whereas the plus or minus 5 could be confusing to people who haven't seen that symbol before. So in this case, either of the answers is fine. X equals plus or minus 5 is good. Or if we want to write them separately, x equals 5 or x equals negative 5. And those are our final answers.